Hello everyone, welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this wonderful and exciting discussion, we'll be talking about different types of prompts that are very useful as a developer, right? That you can use as a developer, right? So in the previous tutorial, we discussed all of these concepts, but let's recap again for those who are new. So simply put, a large language model, right, is a form of model, right? Specifically a form of machine learning model that is good at predicting the next occurrence of words, right? So simply put, it is a machine learning model that is designed to represent the language domain, or it is a system that predicts the probability distribution over a sequence of words. So if you give it a sequence of words, the model is designed to predict the next probable occurrence, right? That is the basic understanding behind a language model. So we have several forms of language models. We have statistical models like n-gram and then skip-gram. We have machine learning models. We also have deep learning or neural models, right? And then one of them is GPT, right? Or the transformer models. And as I said earlier on, a language model is representing the language domain, and everything that we do on it, we do it via language. One of the ways that humans communicate our thought from one person to the other is via language. So if you have two human beings here and they want to communicate their thoughts to themselves or to another person, the only way they can do that is either via sight. I see what you see, I see what you do. Monkey see, monkey do. I see what you see, and then I do. Sight or images, or I hear, right? Audio, right? But these are the most effective ones, audio and then sight. But the most effective way that we can communicate our thoughts is via language. So we have our thoughts and we share it via language, either as audio or words, or either as still language via sight, right? So language is very, very powerful. That is the most effective way we share our thoughts. We communicate what we are thinking to the next person or to the activity around us or to the system around us. So in other words, language models can also be seen as thinking models or thought models, right? Because every activity that we do it via language. We share our thoughts. We first think about it first, then we communicate it via language, either images or words, to the next person or to the system around us, and then the activity is implemented, right? So in a way, language models can also be called thought models, right? Because they contain the thinking patterns of human beings. Okay, so let's see how to work as a developer. What are some of the ways you can benefit from large language models? So let's understand how it works first, and then we'll move from there. So a language model is like this system, right? Because of huge sums of data with some algorithms in which you put in a prompt. So a prompt is just a sequence of text, right, or a sequence of characters. It can be questions, it can be statements that we send it as input to the language model. The language model looks within its system and predicts the probable words as the output. And this output can be text generation, right? Because everything is text. If I'm speaking, I'm generating text. Whatever I'm doing, I'm still generating some content. So text generation, if I tell you to repeat or summarize what I said, it's still text generation, but you are summarizing it in smaller words. So it's still very powerful, right? So the work of prompt engineering is that you have this powerful system in which it operates like this. It operates like this. What you see is what you get, like in the future, in the past. But a language model is like what you say is what you get, right? Just like God in the book of Genesis, right? God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So God said, and then it was. So that is how the language model technology is like. It's like that kind of technology that God had when he used to create the world, right? So it's what you say, it's what you get. So your task as a developer now is to use this technology to help you make your work easy. And how do you do that? You have to know how to structure what you say so that you're able to get the right result, right? And that is where prompt engineering comes in. So prompt engineering is whereby you are trying to engineer or structure or create creatively the input that will be placed inside the language model to get the output, right? So how do you do that? So let's go to the anatomy of a prompt. So the anatomy of a prompt is simply this. So a prompt is simply a statement or a text or a sequence of characters, and to make it very useful you have to be clear, right? You should be clear as possible and specific. Clarity is important because it's a language, and if you're not clear, nobody follows you well, like how I'm speaking. And you also have to understand that it's not just clarity. A prompt, you should also make it like a command. So these are the C's. So clarity first, commands. So the command can be design this, refactor this, review this, right? So it can be a polite command or an impolite command. It can be active or passive, right? Can you, it's still a command, but it's in a polite way. So that is, so now we are giving it as a command or instructions, right? The next one is content. So content is very important because it's a content generation system, and the content is very important in the machine learning world. One of the most important content is an example, right? So you are giving an example. An example can also be called a short. So if you hear of zero short, it simply means zero example. So you are not giving it any example and then it's supposed to predict the next probable words. It can be few short, to give it few example and then it gives the prediction. You can give it one shot, that is one single example, and then continue. So if you give it a question, the question is a form of zero shot because you are not giving it an example, you are just asking it something, right? And it's going to give the words. The content also includes a format, right? So you want it in JSON, you want it in Python, to translate Python to this, that is also part of the content. Then not just content in skin, but also context is also important. You have to understand the context in which you are saying it, right? So it's very important, the style, the tone, and then the role. That is where role prompting comes. And then the capacity of the model also is important to help you with your prompt. So these are some basic tips about the anatomy of a prompt to make it better. Now let's move on to what you can benefit as a developer, right? So these things are just general stuff before we go into practical stuff. So as a developer, how can you benefit from prompt engineering? So let's start some of the stuff for developers. So there's going to be prompt engineering for developers, right? You need this skills. It's going to help you, right? Because as a developer, you need this tool. Because as I said, it's a very powerful system that when you put in something, it gives the result. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So the first thing we need, right, as a prompt engineer, like prompt engineering for developers, is that we have to structure the particular test we are given based on these tips here, right? So we can use prompts to help us with code generation. We can also use it to help us with not just code generation, but if you generate code, I also want you to review the code. So code review, right? So if you generate it, I want you to also review it, right? And not just review it, I also want you to also debug it. So debug code, right? Right, you can use the same thing for it. Not just debug it, I also want you to refactor if there's issue. So code refactoring, right? So refactor the code. So these are some of the things you can do with the language model. You can generate code, you can review code, you can debug code, you can refactor code, you can also use it for some other interesting stuff such as code translation, right? Because it's still text in which you are converting, like say, from Python to, let's say, Julia, right? Or Python to Go, right? You can convert it from one language to the other one. The other stuff you can also do with prompt from LLMs is that you can also use it for code evaluation, right, for performance, right? So you want to evaluate the code for performance, whether it's going to be bottleneck. There are a lot, there are so many. I have a lot of them here. I have a lot here, but we'll just be going through them. There's also another thing you can also do with the LLMs. You can also do code explanation. So let's say you get some code from somewhere and you have no idea about it, you can place it there for it to explain it. Like you have 5. If it can explain, it can also interpret it, right? Code interpretation. And then we can also do code completion, which is very interesting, right? So code generation and code completion are almost the same. Yeah, and then we can also do some other stuff which is not specifically for this. We can call it as code testing or unit test. You can let it write tests for you. So you generate the code, you review it, you debug it, you refactor it, you can translate it, you can also write tests for it, and you can also use it for requirement generation, right? So if I want to build an application, I want to know the requirement, so I can let it analyze it and then generate requirement and analyze the requirement for us. Of course, there are a lot of things you can also do, but these are some of them because I have a lot. Maybe I'll publish an article on it and then we can work from there. There's also another one which is code security, right? Or how secure your code is, right? So let's say you wanted to scan the code for security issues or to help you in security activity. So these are some of the things that as a developer you can benefit from the large language model. So I feel that's something very, very promising. So if you go to platforms like Stack Overflow, right, where developers learn and build, there is also a new platform called AI, which is AI Overflow AI, which was announced some months ago, which is very powerful. You can just go there and then you can register and start. There is also another platform called Phind, which is also very powerful, that you can also use to help you as a developer. And there is the almighty ChatGPT, of course. Yeah, you can see what I was searching for. ChatGPT is also useful. And finally, one of the things we'll be using is Perplexity. I like this platform. Very, very wonderful, right? Very, very wonderful. Of course, there is u.com. There is Bard, of course, from Google. Right, all of these things you can use, but you'll be using Perplexity, right, for now. And then later on you sign up and use this. So Perplexity, Phind, and then Stack Overflow can also help you, right? And let's start with our prompting. So we'll be starting with our examples that we have here from our draw, code generation, code review, code debugging. So let's start with, you can do Perplexity because it gives you sources, but let's try one of the Llama models from Perplexity. So lab.perplexity, and then we're using this one for now, right? Okay, so let's start with it. So this is our platform, and now position this one beside it, and then there you can see that I have some recordings there. No worries, I'll just go back to my here, right? So you put it side by side and then you start with what you want to do. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So we'll be trying to talk about the anatomy of a prompt. So this is our board that we are using to help us with that. So I come back here. As I said, clarity is very important. So if I say something like what is large language model, So now it is very fast. This is using Llama model, not GPT. It's giving us a description, right? Hello, I'll be happy to help you. A large language model is a type of AI model that is trained on a vast amount of text, right? So that is an example of a simple question you are putting there. We do not give it any example, right? We ask it a question, what is, right? So a question is also a form of one of the things you have to understand about it. I should have put it here. So questions, very important. You can ask the question and then it will search and give you a result. I can also give it instruction. So 12 ideas about machine learning for developers, right? So this is an instruction and a command. So give me, and now it's generating this, right? So it's a form of prompt. I just give it that it should give me 12 and it's giving me 12. You see that it's not continuing from 12, right? Perfect. So it's a very powerful system. What you say is what you get. We can also move on from just the command. This is the command I gave it. So give me, right? Now let's move on to code generation, because that's what we are doing now. I can say that, okay, so write to sum up all numbers in a list, right? In Python. So I'm giving it the command, write a function. That is the command I'm giving, that is the instruction I'm giving. And this is zero shot because there is no example. I'm not giving it an example, I'm just telling it, just do this. And I'm giving the context in Python. So now it has given it to us in Python, right? So it has given us this function. So here's a function. So this is the function that it gives. And the formatting was wrong, but you could see that it worked. If I go back to Perplexity and I ask the same thing. So Perplexity is not just a chatbot, it's also a search engine, right? If I copy this from the labs, from Llama, and I pass it here, which is GPT, then now it's generating. So now this is quite good, right? Sorry. So this is very useful. So this is a form of zero shot prompting in which I did not give it any example. I just give it a question, right? And this is a function that's given to us, right? And the nice thing about Perplexity is that it's going to give a citation, and this is the particular function that it has. Very cool. Perfect. So it's almost the same, but this is the same. It's almost the same. Yeah. But I can tell it to optimize this. So this is the first thing we have done, right? And give us the same thing, almost the same stuff. Give us an explanation. So we have seen that it can generate code. It can also explain the code here, right? At least one of the things, code explanation, which is very good. And also give us examples. We can also let it write unit tests for it. So let's use Perplexity. You can also use the Perplexity labs, the Llama models, but let's go here because we want to see this, right? I want it to be clear. You can see that, okay. I can see, can you, is a command, but it's in a polite format. Can you write unit test for the function above? And now it is doing unit test, right? So it's giving us a unit test for it, which is very cool. I can also apply the same thing to Perplexity, to the Llama models. So let's see. And now it gives us the unit test. I think the issue now with this is that the formatting is affected. So I think I'll talk to Ayad about it. Yeah, because I think the formatting is failing here. This is where the formatting fails. It's not able to format it well, so it fails, right? But for this service, it works perfectly well. So give us the test, right? So that is, you can also write code test. I can tell it to change this test, right, to a better format. So you have seen code generation, you have seen code testing or unit test writing. Let's tell it to translate or move it from this format to another format. So, or let's say convert the unit test to PyTest. So this is also code translation. So I'm converting it from one library to another, right? So the same code is now translated from the unit class based to PyTest function based, right? So you can do code translation. Very cool. You can do the same thing here. If I do the same thing on the Llama models, it also works. I like this platform. Oh, now it is working. Did it hear me? Oh, okay. So, wow. Wow, I think it heard me. It is better now. Well, that's cool. That's interesting. Okay, so we can do code translation. Let's tell it to refactor the code, right? So before we refactor, let us identify any bugs or evaluate performance. Evaluate the code for performance and optimize the function for scale. So now it's evaluating the code. Let's see. Okay. Whoa. I wonder whether this is true. I wonder whether this is true. Perfect. So now it's giving us a nice format. I think they heard me. Now I want, this is optimized, right? But I want it to evaluate it again, or identify if, I wanted to identify or review the code if the data has issues. For performance, or so now I'm going to paste it. You can also format the pasting, right? I put back text to format it, and let's see if it will work. Surprise, it is not working now. What is wrong? Okay. What is wrong? What is happening? A bit tired. Okay, let's go here. So let's see. And now let's paste it here. Oh, I see. This is interesting. I think they placed in some filters within this. If you put backslash, it doesn't work. Wow, that is interesting. Now let's try it. Why is it not working? This is interesting. This is a nice, this is a nice stuff, right? Okay, so we have seen that we can do a lot of activities as a developer, right? So you have the code, generate the code, you can refactor it as we saw, we can evaluate for performance, make it, optimize it. The code is still explained. We can convert it from one library to another library, or from one package to another package. We can also debug, you can write code test. We can also do requirement generation. Let me show you the requirement generation. Example, let's go to Perplexity, which is here. Let's try and say it from here. So, one of the requirement generation. Before the requirement generation, there is also something very useful that we can also do during comments. Is you can also user story generation, right? Which is very, very useful, right? You can give it some requirement and then you can tell it to generate user stories, right? So something like hospital management system in Django, right? Let's see. This is a GPT model and it's going through all of these resources, and they are different between the AI and then the labs is that the labs is without sources and is running on Llama, but this one is running on the search engine, right? So it gives result and sources. So let me paste it here. So let's say ignore. It's another form of injection. This is another way we can do prompt injection, right? So this is called, forget what I said earlier on, and now it is designing it for me, right? So after I just finished designing, I'm going to tell it to generate user stories for them, or you can generate requirements for them. Oh, that is quite impressive. Okay. Now let's say generate requirements for the above design. See how it is doing it. This is very, very useful technology that is available to us. So I gave it a system to design, and I'm telling it that, okay, don't just design it, now give me requirements. And now, so that that's giving me requirement, which is very interesting. If you read it, it makes sense. It makes very, very useful sense. User account. First, requirement with registered users. The system shall allow authorized users. That is how requirement engineering is. Now I can tell it this is to the Llama model. Convert the generate user stories from the requirements in see how it is doing. So now I just gave it the command and then it's generating user stories from the instruction. Perfect. So there are so many things we can do with it, right? So we have seen how to do code generation, code review, code unit testing, code translation, user story generation, requirement generation. There are lots of things you can do, right? Very, very cool. So this is one of the things I wanted to share with you. I hope you have learned something from this long, lengthy tutorial. If you like it, let me know about it. Maybe another time you explore more platforms. But this is something I want to share with you. I hope you have gotten it. So you have to understand that we have been given a very powerful technology called a model, and then what you say is what you get. What you put inside the model is what you are going to get. The power is in your hands. See you.